TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declares that the elimination of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar signifies the beginning of the end of the war in Gaza. President Joe Biden, alongside other world leaders, congratulate Israel on the elimination of Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind of the October 7th massacre. Deputy Leader of the Islamist Hamas, Khalil al-Haya, insists that the elimination of Sinwar would not alter the position of the Islamist terror group in negotiations for a ceasefire. The successful elimination of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar is the beginning of the end of the year-long war between Israel and the Islamist terror group in the Gaza Strip. In a televised address to the nation, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu initially highlighted Sinwar's role as the mastermind of the heinous October 7th massacre of 2023, which prompted the raging war.
1 year ago, Yahya Sinwar, the terrorist chief of Hamas, launched the October 7th massacre against Israel. It was the bloodiest attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. It was the worst attack on the Jewish state since the founding of Israel. Sinwar's terrorists murdered in cold blood 1,200 people. That's elderly people, Holocaust survivors, children. They brutally raped women. They beheaded men. They burnt babies alive. And they took some 250 men, 251 women, men, and children hostage to the dungeons of Gaza. Today, the mastermind of this day of sheer evil is no more. Yahya Sinwar is dead. He was killed in Rafah by the brave soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces. While this is not the end of the war in Gaza, it's the beginning of the end.
Netanyahu went on to relay a message to the people of Gaza, including those terrorists holding hostages captive, granting them a way out of their intended fate.
To the people of Gaza, I have a simple message. This war can end tomorrow. It can end if Hamas lays down its arms and returns our hostages. Hamas is holding 101 hostages in Gaza, who are citizens of 23 countries, citizens of Israel, but citizens of many other countries. Israel is committed to doing everything in our power to bring all of them home. And Israel will guarantee the safety of all those who return our hostages. But to those who would harm our hostages, I have another message. Israel will hunt you down and bring you to justice.
The Israeli premier concluded his remarks by also addressing regional countries who've been closely monitoring Iran's multi-front war versus Israel.
I also have a message of hope to the peoples of the region. The axis of terror that was built by Iran is collapsing before our eyes. Nasrallah is gone. His deputy Mohsen is gone. Haniyeh is gone. Def is gone. Sinwar is gone. The reign of terror that the Iranian regime has imposed on its own people and on the peoples of Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen, this too will come to an end. All those who seek a future of prosperity and peace in the Middle East should unite to build a better future. Together, we can push back the forces of darkness and create a future of light and hope for all of us.
It is important to highlight that there were no hostages present during the elimination of Yahya Sinwar, who has been hiding in an area of the southern Gazan town of Rafah in a battle zone which was encircled by the IDF forces and in which the troops conducted operational activity during the past couple of weeks.
Yahya Sinwar
hid in a place where our forces were attacking for a long time. We didn't know he was there, but we continued to act with determination. Our forces identified 3 terrorists fleeing from house to house, running. The forces who were in the area attacked the terrorists, who split up after being shot at. Yahya Sinwar ran away alone to one of the buildings. With the terrorists whom we eliminated, there were no hostages. The forces are now scanning the area with caution to keep the safety of our forces.
Our work is not done. We will not rest until we bring home all our hostages by any means. And we will continue to operate until we complete all our missions in defense of the people of Israel.
Meanwhile, IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Herzia Levi visited the troops responsible for the elimination of arch-terrorist Yahya Sinwar.
I just met with the troops that eliminated him yesterday during an encounter in the Rafah area. The troops acted correctly, with professionalism and determination, not because they knew Sinwar was there, but because our soldiers excel in every encounter with terrorists in all sectors. The actions of the IDF, the ISA, the Southern Command, the Intelligence Directorate, and the Israeli Air Force over the past year drove Sinwar to act like a wanted fugitive, causing him to change locations multiple times. Despite this, it did not help him.
Yahya Sinwar's confirmed elimination took place while U.S. President Joe Biden was traveling on Air Force One en route to Germany, during the course of which National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, in a briefing to the press corps on board of the aircraft, highlighted U.S. intelligence sharing as a contributing factor to the elimination of Hamas's leader.
And it was with American intelligence help that many of these leaders, including Sinwar, were hunted and tracked, flushed out of their hiding places and put on the run. And ultimately, this is a credit to the IDF for taking out Sinwar over the course of the last hours and days. But we're proud of the support that the United States has given to the IDF all along the way.
It is important to know that while U.S. support is indeed vital in Israel's war on all of the separate fronts of warfare, the IDF did not know that Sinwar was in the area it operated, with a senior IDF officer telling TV7 that the elimination of the Hamas leader was a divinely gifted opportunity that was seized by the troops on the battlefield. Separately, Pentagon Press Secretary Major General Pat Ryder acknowledged that the United States was not directly involved in Sinwar's elimination.
The short answer is no, this was an Israeli operation. U.S. forces were not directly involved. Again, as we've highlighted, we've had a small number of special operations forces that have been advising the Israelis on hostage recovery efforts. And again, as the president's statement highlighted, that included working side by side with their Israeli counterparts to help locate and track Sinwar and other Hamas leaders hiding in Gaza who've been holding people, to include Americans, hostage since October 7 last year.
Meanwhile, upon landing in Germany, President Joe Biden said he held a phone conversation with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to congratulate him on the important occasion.
It's a good day for the world. I called Netanyahu to congratulate him getting Sinwar. He had a lot of blood in his hands. American blood, Israeli blood, and others. And I told him that we were really pleased with his actions. And further that now's the time to move on. Move toward a ceasefire in Gaza. Make sure that we move in the direction that we're going to be in a position to make things better for the whole world. It's time for this war to end and bring these hostages home. And so that's what we're ready to do. That's what we're going to do. And I'm sending Tony Blinken to Israel. I guess he's going in 4 days. 4 or 5 days. Yeah, he's going. I talked with Stevie about that. We're going to work out what is the day after that. How do we secure Gaza and move on? Thank you very much.
As was mentioned by President Biden, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is scheduled to travel to Israel next week. According to Blinken's spokesman, Matthew Miller, the focus of the trip essentially aims to push for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip alongside efforts to capitalize on the demise of Sinwar, who was the one responsible for the failure of previously proposed outlines for a ceasefire arrangement.
A few things about that. First of all, as you know, we've been trying to achieve a ceasefire that returns the hostages home, alleviates the suffering of the Palestinian people, and ends the war for many months now. And the chief obstacle to reaching that ceasefire and bringing it into the war has been Sinwar, who has refused to negotiate at all in recent weeks and has said no time and time again. That obstacle has obviously been removed. So you know the proposal that has been on the table for some time. We're going to be trying to push that proposal forward. We now have a different, well, we don't know who will be on the other end of the negotiating table now, but certainly won't be Sinwar. So there's a different, it is a very different situation. Now, I don't want to predict too much what our efforts will look like over the course of the days, because we are just hours after what is a seismic event that changes the nature of this conflict. But we believe it is an opportunity to try and bring it into this war, and we're determined to try and seize that opportunity.
Meanwhile, from an undisclosed location, Hamas Deputy Leader Khalil al-Haya sought to discourage international hopes for a weaker line vis-a-vis the terror group's position, insisting that Hamas would not alter its stance on its demands, which essentially include Israel accepting defeat, irrespective of Hamas's state of despair.
Those prisoners will not return to you until the aggression on our people in Gaza is stopped, and full withdrawal from it, and release our heroes, the prisoners, from the occupation jails. And we continue with Hamas' path. The martyrdom of our leader Yahya Sinwar and the leaders and icons of the movement will give our movement and our resistance strength and hardness and insistence to continue their path and loyalty to their blood and their sacrifices.
It is important to highlight that in contrast to the statement by the deputy leader of Hamas, the death of Yahya Sinwar has inflicted a devastating blow to the terror group's resilience. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. Separately, if you're blessed by our productions, which are exclusively donation-based, please consider supporting our programs with a donation. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I'd like also, of course, to thank all of you who support TV7, both regularly or intermittently. Without your support, all of these productions, including TV7 Israel News, as well as Jerusalem Studio, Deep Dive, and much more, wouldn't be possible. I'm Jonathan Hessen, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom u'Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.